Humor is very important in our lives, isn't it? It seems like there's a whole lot of people really angry nowadays and not a whole lot of people having a whole lot of fun and laughing about things. And I'll tell you this quick little story here because I love to find the purpose and meaning not just in life in a big general area, but some of the small things. I always try to find a lesson. What's God trying to say? And while you guys were getting pie, I noticed my lips were a little bit dry from talking so much in the first seminar. So I went running over to the gas station, and I didn't have any money in my wallet. So I go into my truck and my console, and I open it up, and I had a dollar bill, and then I got my little tin with all my change in there. I'm like, great, that's enough. And I sifted through real quick, and I didn't see my chapstick, so I run across over to the gas station, and my total was $2.20 for this thing at CarMax. And I set my dollar down, and I opened up my little tin, and it was all pennies. I looked at him, I said, here's 20 pennies. I'll be right back with the other dollar. I run back over to my truck, and I open up the little console that I never used because I knew I had some dimes and stuff like that. And there's the CarMax I was looking for. So now I got a dilemma. He's got $1.20 of mine, which clearly is the majority of the money I had on myself. So do I go back and get it, or do I just come in here and eat pie? And I went back and I got this CarMax, so now I have two. So through my lack of preparation, now I'm doubly prepared, I guess, is what I appreciate the invite. It's so incredibly humbling to be able to step up here. I am just absolutely beside myself. This isn't the first time I've been here to this event. I've been here as a vendor, and I've been here as a guest and to watch people like Scott Schultz and Ray Howell, who's a great friend of mine. I'm very blessed to be on the planning committee for his ministry. To be standing here is really something. I first heard Ray speak must have been 14 or 15 years ago at the Bowtech factory in Eugene, Oregon. And I was at a place in my life where I wasn't living right at all. But hearing Ray speak was one of the very first impactful touches in me returning to my faith. And to fast forward from my mid-20s until my mid-30s, to see that change and now to be working alongside of him is absolutely mind-blowing. I did grow up in Mosinee, Wisconsin, cut my teeth as a river rat at a very young age. My grandpa owned the bait shop in town, and that's kind of where I developed my love for fishing. And while I'm talking about a hunting experience today, one thing I really love about fishing is the fact that income doesn't dictate what waters you can fish. It's literally the ultimate public land. I fish the same waters that you fish, and money doesn't decide, how we get out there, regardless of the option. Whereas hunting as a sport, sometimes the difference between public lands and private lands is quite drastic. And my father isn't a hunter or a fisherman, so growing up on Marathon County public hunting land versus fishing the public Wisconsin River, my love for fishing far exceeded my love for hunting. I'm so passionate about the outdoors, and I always have been. I always knew I wanted a career in this industry, and I've swung a lot. I mean, I have really, I have swung, and I guess some people would say missed at trying to get a career in this industry. If you've seen me golf, it looked about the same. Swing a lot, don't hit too many times. And when you hit, end up in left field somewhere where you didn't expect to be. But I have been in the tackle industry. I was the co-owner of Tyrant Tackle, and I actually started out making lures. This is my 18th year of being a licensed fishing guide. Been very lucky to have some experience in fishing tournaments and win a few. I've worked in retail. I now own a sporting goods store in Rothschild. I had a television show on the Sportsman Channel. I mean, I've tried everything I can to get something to stick. And what people would maybe sometimes call failure, I just call life experience. All right? And I've got a lot of it. And I started giving seminars before I was even out of high school. And when we took our hat off to pray back there was about 25 hairs on the inside of my hat stuck to it, not to my head. So I finally feel qualified to actually stand up here and talk about something. But getting back to that passion, I mean, isn't passion a beautiful God-given thing? Doesn't matter what it is. I mean, how many of you guys are Chicago Bears fans? Passionate Chicago Bears fans. All right. It's funny. Packer fans? Packer fans? Okay. See, I always thought as a Bears fan, I was quite a bit smarter than you guys. Pin drop. I get to forget about football and focus on hunting by the middle of September. I have all of my Sundays free for church in the morning and hunting in the evening. And you guys usually wait till December before your dreams are crushed. So, like I said, I think I'm the one to figure out. And I can't bang on the Packers too much. On a serious note, 2 weeks ago, my 25-year-old cousin had an accident on Rib Mountain and became paralyzed from the chest down permanently. Terrible thing for our family. I mean, it's hard. And the kid, I went to Minneapolis to go pick up his brother because his brother doesn't have a car, and we bring him back home. And he's out of his surgery 6 hours to stabilize his spine so he could survive. And we get there, and they're like, don't look for a miracle. It's already happened. And we get in, and he's only been on anesthesia for an hour. And you know what he says? Everybody chill out. I got to find out what God wants me to do with this. You want to see somebody in the absolute pit and bottom, where people fail, where people can't handle that pressure. That's the first thing on his mind. So his name's Bradley Humpner. If you put him in your prayers, I'd really appreciate it because he needs him right now because on top of it, he just became inflicted with influenza A and has pneumonia. So it's tough for him, all right? And he's passionate about the Packers. And I reached out to that team. I said, I don't know what you guys do, but here's what happened. In 2 days, I had a box this big, hooded sweatshirts, Aaron Rodgers autographs, blankets, autographed footballs. I mean, unbelievable. So I promise you I will never say anything bad, at least, about the Packers ever again. All right? But that passion that I'm talking about, it's a serious thing. One thing I've become really passionate about is my faith. These are trying times in our country. So for me to stand up here and see a whole bunch of sportsmen, Second Amendment loving Americans, and God-loving Americans in a church, there's nowhere I'd rather be than here right now. And I'm really excited about being here. But I'm just, like I said, I'm an average guy. I've swung really hard. I've hit sometimes. I've missed sometimes. But I'm passionate about what I do. And I'm just grateful for the opportunity to stand up here and talk to you about one of the experiences that brought me to being the man that I am today. So when I'm talking about passion, and like I said, I've had that passion for fishing, that competitive nature, that career. But as a hobby, I loved hunting. I was really bad. I'm still pretty bad at it. But I love it. And I love being in the industry. And like I said, I grew up hunting on public land pretty much my whole life. Every three-pointer was in severe danger, and every trophy buck didn't have anything to worry about because after he got over 100 inches, there wasn't a chance I was hitting him anyway. All right, so I'm passionate about hunting, and through my career working for Gander Mountain and doing the seminars and all this stuff, I had the opportunity to befriend Hall of Fame angler Joe Bucher, and we stayed in pretty regular contact. Just a young kid, in my early 20s, and after deer season, I'm talking to him. He's like, how's your season? I'm like, this is awesome. I shot this fork buck in, and I got meat now. And he's like, why'd you shoot that? Says the guy with 160 acres in Buffalo County. So I'm just like, I'm like, well, that's what he's got to let him go if you want to shoot big ones. And I'm like, that's big for me, man. It's got antlers on its head. He's like, you ever shot a big buck? Nope, I've never shot a big buck. He said, tell you what, why don't you come and hunt my property? Here I am, this young, enthusiastic 20-year-old kid who's passionate about a career in the hunting and fishing industry. And here's someone I've looked up to since I was this tall, seeing him come in my grandpa's bait shop, invite me to hunt and help me fulfill a dream. What an awesome example of mentorship. I had nothing to offer. I mean, I got some really nice fishing gear at that point, and I ate a lot of ramen. A lot. Pay bills, more fishing rods, bills can wait. Credit cards are free money, right? At that point, that's kind of what I believed. So anyway, I'm planning. I'm so excited to get out to this place. And sure enough, first year I'm there, I shoot a great big 8-pointer. Biggest buck of my life. It was absolutely amazing. He was being chased down by a coyote when I shot him. So after I shoot this deer and he runs and he falls over, that coyote's like, I don't know how I did that. but I'm going to figure it out, or I'm going to do that again. And then he sees me up in the tree like this, and gone. And I was so grateful for that opportunity. I mean, man, when I'm an old man sitting in an old folks' home, losing my memory, I promise you I'm going to remember that experience because it was wonderful. And that spring, I go out there to help cut firewood for the year and stuff like that. And and right away he's like, "All right, so next year oh my gosh, he's letting me come back. Wow, how cool is this? I'm part of the camp. I'm really a part of it. I'm part of something. Pretty excited." So I go back. And if you've ever seen images or read about bluff country bucks, any of this beautiful Mississippi River area, okay, what I was dealing with is we would enter the tree stand by going to the top of the bluff in the morning, pitch dark, and then we would descend down to our stands. Because what we were trying to achieve is getting in there without spooking the deer that are on the agricultural fields. So in the morning, they would come off the fields and they'd hit this little corner. They'd stop and get a drink, and then they'd go up to their bedding area. Okay, so I'm coming in from the top, trying to intercept them coming and rising up elevation-wise for the day. So after about 8:30, all the deer are off the field, and you would just watch rutting bucks and does run up on top. Not all the way up on top, about 25% of the way down. Because they can see down, but when you look up, it's really difficult to silhouette them. So that's why you see a lot of those major trails aren't necessarily right on top. Now, there are some up there, but the majority of those rutting trails are running just a little bit down from the top. And I've noticed that, having gone out west a number of times, muley hunting and stuff like that, I'm always seeing the muleys just down a little bit in a spot, usually next to a rock and some shade, where they can see you and you look up and have a harder time seeing them. Real similar situation, just a great defense mechanism. So the second year I go out there, I'm thinking to myself, man, have I got you pegged? I got just the idea, all right? So I get up to the top, and I get out of the buggy, and I walk down in the pitch black, and I set my climbing tree stand down, and I go down to the bottom. So about 8:30, I'm going to ascend back up to the top of the hill. And in the morning, this one buck we call Francisco, which is terminology for a spike buck that thinks he's 180 inches. So he's just coming along looking for somebody to beat up. And actually a 5-pointer of all things that I really wanted to shoot because he was bladed. He just had this great big giant fork on one side. It's the coolest looking thing I've ever seen. But about 8:30, 9 o'clock, I'm assuming that the deer activity down where I'm at is done for the day. So I get out of my stand and I climb. I mean, it's a climb. It's up. And ascend up to find my climbing tree stand that I had just set down in the dark, all right? And I find it, and I climb up the tree with my safety harness, and I slide my safety harness up, and I tie myself in, and here I'm sitting down. And when you're up on top and you can see everything in that country, it is magnificent. It is so beautiful to see that golden corn and the color of the changing maples and the green alfalfa fields and the darkness of the timber. I mean, it is a cornucopia of beauty. It is marvelous. And I'm sitting there and all settled in, and all of a sudden I see a doe come running, and there's 3 bucks right on its tail. And they go running by. And I'm like, man, would you look at that? Hey, dummy, you're too far away. All right, because that was clear to me that doe was an estrus. I mean, it was on like Donkey Kong. I mean, it was just unbelievable rutting activity. Things were lit up like absolute fire. And then all of a sudden, the light bulb goes off in my head of an article I read by Miles Keller one time that just said, if you ever see a doe and estrus go running by out of range, get out of the tree and go stand, next to a tree, maybe, 15 yards off, because it could be 10 minutes later, 30 minutes later, an hour later, that another buck is going to come through on that scent trail. And there's nothing better for, even though it doesn't help me sell anything in my store, there's nothing better for attracting deer than the real thing, right? So I am just excited because I felt like a genius, right? I got this figured out. This whole thing I got figured out. I'm going to get out of this tree and I'm going to go stand off of this spot. So I'm excited, right? Anybody ever do anything stupid when you're excited? Yeah, I had a lot of people going through the memory books right now. So I unhook my safety harness, and I turn around, and I sit down on the back side of my climbing tree stand. And do we have that image there? Yeah, does anybody not know how a climbing tree stand works? It's okay. Go ahead and raise your hand if you don't. Anybody? All right, super. So I go and sit down on this bar here on my climbing tree stand, and I strap my feet into those 1-inch web straps right here. All right? And I put my weight down. And as soon as I put my weight down, right there, and it wasn't a summit, by the way, right there, that band goes like you took a pair of tin snips and just went. I immediately fall backwards. And I knew I was 22 feet up because my hoist rope is 20 feet. And I always climb up until my bow leaves the ground. So I knew I was at 22. So I fall backwards, and I immediately come to this jolt that was not the ground. My feet were strapped into these straps right here, so they were holding my body weight backwards with my back to the tree. Now my calves were right there. Right there. And I'm folded back over like a pretzel. I don't have any time to really take any of that into consideration because the top part of the stand had come around my neck and was choking me to death. I'm fighting for everything I've got in my body, all of my strength, and I get the top part of the stand off my neck, and I let go, and it falls to the ground. So now I'm hanging from this platform, backwards, upside down. My bow and my quiver are laying on the ground below me. The top part of my stand is laying below me. And I do all these things, try to crunch and grab and flail and try to get myself upright. I was a flanker for a rugby team at that time. I was a heck of a lot better shape than I am now. And there wasn't an ounce of prayer for me to do anything. So I do what any person would do, and I start screaming as loud as I can. There's one other guy on the property. The problem is if I was in Marathon County, Wisconsin, where it's flat, that'd probably been all right. The problem in bluff country is with all these turning hills and changing thermals and stuff, sound doesn't travel the same way as it does when you're ice fishing on a lake and you can hear a guy talking about what he's using halfway across the lake. So I'm screaming and I'm screaming as loud as I can. And from all the screaming, my throat starts to close up and I can hardly breathe. Now, having all my years in the sporting goods industry, I've been through a hunter safety system seminar more than a couple times. And I know as a fact, and knew at that moment, in that period of time, that your opportunity to die from staying up in that tree is every bit as good as falling because of the strangulation that happens from being up there. And what had happened with my calves being right here on that bottom, it's exactly what happened. Cut the circulation off of my calves. I've got to get out. I reach in my backpack, and I'm reaching for my knife. And I get a hold of that back handle of my knife just in time for it to slip out of my hands and fall to the ground out of the sheath. I now know there's nothing in my backpack that can do me much good, so I strip my backpack off. So now I've got my pack and my knife and my stand and my bow, my quiver and everything down below me. And And just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, you ever see like a cartoon or whatever, like Bugs Bunny when it's all done, how that circle kind of comes into a close? Or you see that in a movie, when they're trying to simulate somebody dying? That's real. It's exactly what happened. As I'm fighting and kicking and swinging, trying to get myself out, that circulation continued to be cut off, and I watched this black circle come in, and I watch it come in, and I watch it come in, and I watch it come in, until I'm out. Nothing I can do now. Now, I don't know how, why, what, where, but I'm not going to try to explain it. Miracle? I'll throw that word out there. And I don't know what time happened. I come back. I am deathly well aware of the severity of my situation. So I know that if I stay in the position that I'm at, death is a certainty. Even if that guy hears me and he comes, what's he going to do when he gets to the bottom of the tree? Who do you want me to send cards to? What do you want me to say to your mother? You ain't coming up there. Not at 6'4", 320. So the only thing I can think of is swinging my body as violently as I can, trying to come out of my boots so I can fall. So I just kind of tuck and I start rolling and I'm swinging and I'm swinging and I'm screaming occasionally and I'm swinging, and all of a sudden I feel that stand shift and one of my feet comes flying out of my boot. That's a good thing, except for now I'm hanging by one foot, upside down, backwards, and off to the side on this stand. The pain was very real because the circulation was starting to come back because I had a free leg. When I got that one foot out, I had enough wherewithal and flexibility that I could turn around and I could get one hand around that tree. Now, when I was 12 or so playing sandlot football, I went up and I caught a pass, and my fat little best friend, Andy, rolled right over my ankle, snapped it. It was really loud because the girls that were watching us from across the field shrieked when they heard it. And luckily it was just the tendon slapping against the bone or coming out of place and going back in. It wasn't that bad. But I had done it once before, and I'm like, I can do this again. And I'm grabbing this tree, and I'm just kicking as hard as I can. I'm kicking and kicking and kicking. And my foot's backwards, upside down, facing the wrong direction. My whole body weight's hanging from it, and I'm just kicking as hard as I can. And all of a sudden, that stand shifts again, and it stops. When it stops, all I remember is having enough where I can swing around and I can grab that tree with both arms, bear hugging the tree upside down, looking behind me and seeing my socks, because my body was folding like this, going backwards. What happened after that, I have no recollection of. None. However long later, I don't think it was a really long time. What seemed like a lifetime, who knows, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 5, I don't know. But I come to, and I remember when I came to, all I wanted to do was drink some water. I wanted this simple thing that we take for granted more than anything in the world. Because from screaming and from being upside down and all the struggle, my throat was closed up. I reach in my backpack to grab my water, and I realize that I'm not laying on anything. Nothing. I did not land on my bow. I did not land on my stand. I did not land on my knife. I'm laying there next to it. Like, all right, I got to get out of here. And I go to get out of here, all of a sudden there's just nothing's working. It's just, I got nothing. Nothing. Like, this is great. From the chest down, I had no movement. I start belly crawling my way out. And I'm pulling myself out, and there's a log in front of me. And I push myself up on the log, and all of a sudden I got this tingling in my legs. And I tried moving, and my leg moved, and I basically stood up just tall enough to see the guy that I was screaming for help for coming over the top of the hill, so he watched me fall over. If you think you're using 100% of yourself, you're wrong. That man found the strength to pick me up like I weighed 10 pounds and carry me out of the woods like I was nothing. Nothing. Just picked me up, I was probably $190 at the time. Just kicked it into dad mode or savior mode and just... So, the next day I'm sitting in a ladder stand. Strapped in really good. My favorite hobby didn't involve a church at that time. Actually, nothing that I did involved the church at that time. I spent a lot of time at the other things towns of this size and smaller have on each corner, and it wasn't the church. I'm sitting up in this ladder stand. I'm trying to figure it all out. And I've never appreciated watching a squirrel so much in my life. Usually, who doesn't want an AK-47 when you're bow hunting when the squirrels come in? Tell me once, opening day of rifle season, you're just like, I'm not going to scare all the deer away if I shoot this thing. It's crossed your mind, right? And I'm just watching this thing with so much appreciation. And he goes and bounces around, and he's back behind me. I look up, and I see this doe and this fawn come, and they bed right in front of me. Just watching them. It was pretty cool. And that squirrel's behind me, and all of a sudden I hear that telltale, I think a squirrel. I turn around and look, and there's this great big 8-pointer. 13 yards broadside. I draw back. I put that pin behind his shoulder. I let that arrow go, and I watch that arrow hit right in that crease behind that shoulder, right where you want it to go. I just wrote, outdoor life is really going to want this, That's what I was thinking to myself. I'm like, man, I'm going to get famous off of this. This is going to be, someone's buying this story. That's what I was thinking. I've never found that deer. 13 yards broadside. If you've been in bluff country, a 13-yard shot when it's uphill is pretty much eye level. Okay, that's how far the test fire lane is in my shop. I've never missed the target. Okay, if it's not, and I didn't miss this target. I found my arrows totally covered in blood. I watched the thing walk down the hills, do one of these things a little bit, and then walk into the brush. I'll get to what I think happened shortly after this. I was in Montana 3 weeks later. I was filming for my show. I'm muley hunting. I get a text message from Joe. Hey, my godson shot your buck during our rifle season. It was chasing a doe. And they pulled the height off, and you could see right where I hit. Perfect shot. Perfect. You couldn't draw a better shot. Perfectly squared on. That arrow turned 90 degrees, went down the inside of the rib cage, never touched a lung, and came out the same side. I've talked to a lot of hunters, and I've only had one man in my life tell me, yeah, I had that happen. That was Howell. But he shot everything. There's nothing that hasn't happened to him in the woods, right? And of course I couldn't figure it out. I think I have it figured out now. I think even after that experience, it's not like I had this coming to Jesus moment. I didn't just flip a switch and go, I'm never doing anything wrong ever again. Sin be gone. I didn't. I was in my early 20s. And I was just as stupid as I was the day before it happened. But I think I needed that humility. Did you hear what I said after I said I hit that buck? Look what I did. Look what I did. I completely lost fact of the truth that somebody else did something, and that was God. That accident was a gift, and I failed to see that gift for what it was. Because I can name customers all day that have had the same thing happen. I have customers that are dead that had the same thing happen to me. I have multiple customers that are in wheelchairs that happened to me. And boy, doesn't that open up a whole other conversation. Well, why didn't it happen to you? And why didn't it happen that way to them? And stuff like that. I say God doesn't give us anything we can't handle. Those guys in those wheelchairs, they can handle it. They championed it. My cousin, he's going to champion it. They've used that experience for good. I don't know that I was in a place at that age where if I would have ended up in a wheelchair that I would have realized it a gift from God, that I might have gotten angry at God. And I might have turned further away or completely away from Him at that time. And like I said, I didn't just figure it out. But I will tell you one thing. If you take a rock, a stubborn, stupid, hard rock that's wedged on the side of a hill in Buffalo County, and you hit it with a hammer or dig on it with a shovel enough, it's going to start rolling in the direction God wants it to. For me, that was the first thing in my life that helped return me to my faith. I went and did a lot of stupid stuff after that I'm not proud of. And it took me a long time to see the truth in what had happened. And like I said earlier with this CarMax, I said I'm always trying to find God's will. I haven't figured out the CarMax thing, by the way. That'll take me a couple weeks. My tree stand accident took me years. But the one thing that I realized out of that experience is that I did a lot of things right that day. Did I have a safety harness on? Yep. Did I have the knife with me that could have cut the straps? Yep. Was my equipment new? Yeah. Yeah. All my equipment's new. Working sporting goods. Did I do the right thing in creating a plan for success in deer hunting that day? Yep. Did I do the right thing in picking myself up by my bootstraps and getting back out there? I think so. Did I do the right thing by picking the right pin, placing the right pin in the right spot on that buck the next day? Yeah. But where's the successes in it? Now let's take an inventory of my life, and you can take an inventory of your own life inside. Could I have done something better? Yep. And here's a few things I could have done better. Number one, I should have wore my knife on my belt, so I had access to it. I don't move without having this thing on me. I've cut so many boxes at work with it, I can barely cut butter, but it's always with me. I could have probably had a whistle. You probably would have heard the whistle, right? Could have changed things. Cell phone with me? Walkie-talkies? Because if I would have had a walkie-talkie, you would have heard me scream, and he would have turned it on, said, "What's up?" I could say, "Bring a stick, bring a ladder, bring your knife and a sheet." There's stuff that he could have potentially done to help me. Could have used my safety harness properly. I've probably been the big one, huh? Maybe doing a check of my equipment before I went could have changed the outcome of that. So what's my point? You may or may not already be doing these things. Are you going to church? It's convicting. Bible studies? Are you fellowshipping with other people? Are you doing your devotional? Reading this? I don't have a Bible. You got a phone? Hotels have got them. I'm pretty sure, it's all accessible. All the right tools are accessible. Do you lie, steal, cheat, XYZ, insert sin? No. Okay, so you do everything to the best of your abilities to equip yourself for a positive spiritual life. Great. But I always wore my safety harness. I always had a knife. I always had all those things. You disconnect from that tree, it can kill you like that. You disconnect from your walk with Christ, it can kill you like that. Literally. Truthfully, literally. I'm just going to go into that. I'm just going to have that one drink. It could kill you. Worse, somebody else. Convicting. Just tell that one little white lie. I'm just going to go on that one website just that one time. I'm going to drive past that place I used to go. Oh, that old girlfriend, she just friended me. Oh, I guess I could just ask her how she's doing. You think about it. Sin is everywhere in our lives, and we will all fail at it. That doesn't mean we don't step up every day and equip ourselves with the best that we can equip ourselves to survive each day. And in that situation where I'm down here at the bottom, terrified for my life, if you would have said, here's a gift of the proper equipment to change your situation, would you take it? The answer is yes. It is amazing when your best friend is reaching out to you because of the extreme struggles and trials in his life, the situations that he put himself into. When you lay out plan X, Y, Z, how absolutely ready and willing that individual is to take that advice, take those steps, do all those things after the mistake is made. So if it's worth it to you after you make the mistake, why wouldn't you do it before? Everyone always talks about, say this prayer so you can get to heaven. Pray this prayer. Just do this so you can get to heaven. That's great. But what if I told you there was a better life for you today? A better life for you tomorrow? Heaven's great. It's great to focus on the finish line, but don't you want to enjoy the race? Heaven can exist for you on earth. Every day can be your heaven, living your life in God's will. I made changes in my life that day. I did not become perfect. I still am not perfect, I can promise you that. But I took that gift. God laid that out there and said, here is an experience, here is a second chance, here is a lesson for you to take in your life. What do you want to do with it? You're a free-willed people with the availability to make choices. Why do bad things happen? There's the answer. Sometimes someone's free will bumps up against yours. It's because we're a free-willed people with the opportunity to make choices and to make decisions. What decision do you want to make today? That's my call. That's why this is called Stay Tethered. And if you're not tethered, and you don't want to be hanging from there, you don't want your life flashing before your eyes, you don't want to black out, that opportunity can be today. That opportunity can be now. And if you've already made that decision, why are you keeping it to yourself? Below average height, above average weight, average intelligence. Maybe a little less according to my wife. But one thing I'm above average is in boldness. because that rock that got nudged out of the hill is rolling, and I'm not going to let it be stopped. I don't care about the consequences. And there can be a log laid down in front of me. I might bump up in the air. It might slow me down, but I'm going to pick that speed back up. Because going down that hill is God's will for my life. And I will sacrifice everything for it. There is scripture on the walls of my store for a purpose. To reach the people that I can reach in any way I can reach it. I don't want you to have to ask, is Justin Gaiche Christian? I want to show you in my actions out of obedience. So there might be people here that are doing a lot of really great things. Awesome. I'm here tonight to challenge you to do it better. And if you're not and you want to make that change, I'm challenging you too. There's nothing that drives me more nuts than an adult making this statement about children. Well, they got to make their own mistakes. I'm not going to let you eat a Tide Pod. I want to tell you to stop it. Don't be stupid. I want to smack you in the back of the head. And if you do it again, my goodness, things are going to get messy. Why am I going to let my child, my beautiful 6-year-old son, go and make mistakes on his own? He doesn't have to. He can learn from my mistakes. I can promise you one thing. He's going to wear that safety harness. And he might not listen to me because he's a free-willed individual. But I sure the heck am going to do everything I can to equip him for safety and success in the tree stand, for safety and success on the water, and for safety and security and salvation in his walk in Jesus Christ. He does not have to make those decisions. I made those decisions, and he can learn from them. We always try to sit here and complain about, oh my gosh, we're losing all these hunters every year. Oh, the numbers are going down. Oh my gosh. The church as a whole is shrinking. Oh my gosh, terrible. What are we doing about it? Every one of you is every bit as equipped, if not more than I am, to make a difference in someone's life with your own stories, with your own actions, especially with mentorship. This is just hunting. There's some people in here that do some pretty marvelous things with their life. You're all equipped. And if you're not, and you want to be, tonight can be that night. This opportunity here. There are people in this church. I look around and I see brothers like my father-in-law, that rascal. There are people here, these wonderful men that have come together, and the women, the volunteers, the people to put this opportunity on. This is not just a banquet. This is not just a meal. It's not just a community event. This is an opportunity for us to lift up our lives, to set an example, to be sportsmen, to mentor, to make our communities better, and most of all, to lift up our Lord and Savior and improve our lives in His will. So if that's on your heart, come talk to me. Come talk to any of these people with these awesome NOC shirts on. Pastors, friends, anybody. That's why I'm here tonight. And I so gratefully thank you for this opportunity to be here. It's so crazy to me that here Romans 1:20 is on the wall. You know, it was circulating in this slide. That is my absolute, tattoo that backwards on my forehead so I can see it in the mirror. You know? You want proof? Open your eyes. God's in creation. You want to be 20 feet closer to God? Get up in a tree stand. You want nothing between you and God? Get in the middle of the lake in a boat. Use whatever cliche you want to. How blessed are we as sportsmen and sportswomen, especially in this community, in this part of the world where we're not as distracted by some of the mess that's going on, to go out and see God's wonderful creation, identify that it's from Him, understand the gift that's available to you today, equip yourself out, and go be a disciple. Thank you.